Hello, chicos and chicas. Today we are going to analyze a game that I played a couple of hours ago. It is time for a little bit of showboating. I hope you will not mind me blowing my own trumpet. It was a really fun game, so without any additional comment, further ado, let's jump right into it. It was a Sicilian, and against the Sicilian, Najdorf, the Scheveningen, and the Four Knights Classical, I really like to throw in here and there my old favorite, the Bishop C4 variations. It has a fair number of games, the Fischer, the Velimirovic, the Sozin, depending on which variation we land in. And against the Najdorf, I very often like to deploy this early Bishop G5 variation. Objectively speaking, it's a harmless variation, although perhaps harmless is the worst way to describe it. It's a line that is easy to manage and handle if you have got good theoretical knowledge. But it's not harmless. It in fact is the opposite. It is an extremely dangerous, sharp variation where one misstep can lead to an immediate catastrophe. The idea behind Bishop G5 is to accelerate development. There are two ways to treat this. There is the famous E5 variation here that was the world famous Ivanchuk Karyakin with the Queen E6 Queen sacrifice later on. Actually, it came from E2. That variation goes something like take, then the Queen plays to E3, and then there are various sack ideas on E6. The line that I like to play a little bit more is objectively slightly worse, and that is queenside castles, which invites once again insane complications. And it's very easy to misstep. For example, my opponent played here b4, which is an almost immediately losing move. And luckily, I remembered here my own analysis that I conducted 20 years ago, very close to 20 years ago. It's the oldest file in my chessable chess-based database. Quite by far amongst those that I have ever created, and I still nurture that as my own little baby. So here White has got a beautiful follow-up continuation. If you want to work it out, you can pause the video, but I didn't necessarily intend to, give this video that constant coaching vibe of pause. So yeah, most people here would think that it's knight d5, which loses to pretty much every single black move there is. Most typically knight d5, which hangs the bishop, and of course if I take, the knight takes back. So it's a bit more complicated. The story is actually that we need to play knight f5, vacating, or rather paving the way for the other knight to come to d5. Typically speaking, by the way, once you think about knight d5 in a Sicilian defense game with white, you almost inevitably want to also consider knight f5 and vice versa. And here it's knight f5 that is going to crack the position open, ef5, and here comes the key move, which is very easy to overlook in fact, or rather discard knight f5 because of not seeing the only correct follow-up, which is bishop takes f6. The reason why we need to play this move is to allow knight d5 to come with a tempo. Note that the tempting e5 loses immediately to bishop b7. No, because we have e d6 here, maybe? Okay. Maybe it's e5 takes. Takes and then... Is it bishop b7 or take? I guess either or, right? Yeah, this is definitely no bueno. And I guess ef5, definitely bishop b7, and then we are golden again. So, yeah. I should have actually checked it, but I'm glad that... Well, in one sense, I knew I was never going to do that because bishop f6 was my move, but it's good to check on these ideas. So bishop f6, my opponent took back. I think slightly more challenging, although the engine disapproves of the move, could be bc, when bishop takes g7, rook g8, bishop takes c3, leads to a tremendous initiative for white. Although I'm down a piece, I have got a fair number of pawns, which is perfectly relevant. What's relevant is awful development and the king stuck in the middle. Believe it or not, the engine thinks it's better than +3 already for white. My opponent took back. I went knight d5, of course. We love that knight on d5. This is the key idea. And after bishop g5 check, king b1, and queen b7, I made the only slight mistake in the game. Although I think the game review did not count it even as an inaccuracy. But when I looked at it with the engine afterward, I went like, oh boy, how could I miss that? So the move that I missed here is queen g3. And frankly, it's quite embarrassing that I missed this because queen g5 and queen d6 threats are so powerful. Note that queen d6 is not a pawn. It's a game-winning knight check on c7. Yeah, we are going to mop up here pretty much instantaneously. Also note that actually our main threat is not even knight c7. It's actually knight f6, followed by mate. So yeah, this is complete carnage city. After queen g3, the best black move is actually castles, returning the piece and retaining a dead lost position. So instead, unfortunately, I took back on f5, a bit of a reflex. Once again, I regret that, but hey, what can we do? The temptation was real to bring the rook in. Also, the f-pawn is going to advance soon, so yeah, I went f6. And at this point, I already thought that my game was completely winning, and I already calculated some forcingly winning lines. However, and this is where the game becomes really fun. By the way, note the favorite back rank fest. After knight c6, I started calculating queen g3, which I shortly played because I just felt like there is no way that queen g3 is not the best move here. It forces in fact g6, which then can become a target. I can bite into it. I can come in here. It just felt like I had to do it. And here I started calculating. And the first thing that I started obsessing on was this checkmate pattern idea, which actually doesn't exist in this position, which was queen g5, king h8, queen here, rook here, h5, black pass, and then queen sack followed by hg. But unfortunately, it doesn't work because my bishop is not here, in which case the hg double check would be a mate. What does win here, however, which I completely overlooked in my calculations. In fact, no, I'm actually going to ask you to try to calculate this. It's a mate in 5. White to move and mate in 5 by force. And I overlooked it, not here obviously, but when I calculated the consequences of queen g5 in this position, I didn't see that mate idea. So one more time here. Oh, sorry. Here, 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 and here. Mind you, of course, black should play g5, by the way, after which white has serious problems. But I even after the completely useless a5, I didn't see a basic mate pattern, which, shame on me, is take, and take. Somehow I thought about all the possible checkmate patterns except for this one. Now, the fact that I didn't see it is irrelevant in the sense that, once again, g5, of course, would have completely shut down, at least for the time being, my kingside operation. So I quickly switched out of this idea in favor of h5. And I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I really want you to come with me on this one because I think you will find it very instructive. When I started calculating h5, very soon, how long did I take on h5 exactly? I reckon less than a minute. A minute and 1 second. So, in about 40 seconds in, I saw a checkmate pattern. Well, I saw many, but I saw one in particular that I really liked. And that's move for move, how the game went. And with that, I want to demonstrate to you that the better chess player that you become, the greater the distance you can cover between an attacking position and an ultimately occurring checkmate pattern. When you are a lower rated player, you literally have to walk up unknowingly to a position where there is a mate pattern and you go like, oh, I know this mate pattern, and you go for it. But as you improve in your chess skills, one of the most important abilities is that you can start sort of walking back away from the mate motif and see it from far further away when it's only the skeleton of the mate that is roughly visible, or you can sort of put it together, and then you start working toward that mate pattern and mate idea and make it happen. This is how it happened. H5, knight, bishop f5. The irony is that knight e5 I also calculated, and it attracts the exact same checkmate idea. I played bishop f5, and from now on we have got a forced mate. So if you would like to calculate it now, I would like to invite you to do so, because it's quite a cool challenge. White to move, force a sensational checkmate from here. Pause the video because I'm about to reveal the big deal. So funnily enough, you look at all the pieces, all the white pieces, and they all well and truly are attacking, but you could argue that perhaps the b3 bishop is the least relevant attacker amongst all. And well, let's see who is going to give the checkmate. Hg, bishop g, rook h7. If in this position your first candidate move is rook h7, then it's time to reflect and rewire chess, your chess, because that has to be it. And my slight issue with my own game here was the fact that I'm pretty sure that many queen moves will lead to checkmate here. But of course, by far the nicest is the queen sack followed by knight e7. Now you could say that, it's the knight that gives the checkmate, but now it's a 50-50 because it had to be a double checkmate. Now, I would like to send a massive shout out to my opponent who goes by the username Nigel Dwarf, a national master from the US. He was a very, very good sport because he saw the mate about he2. 100%. And he allowed me to play it out, for which, by the way, I thanked him after the game, and he said, yep, anytime. Yeah, he's a very nice fella. He beat me actually in the first game. We played, I think, 3 or 4 games. He beat me maybe 3 only. First, and then I won the next 2. And because I'm a YouTuber who likes to brag, I'm, of course, presenting the one that I won. But actually, to be fair, I think this checkmate attack deserves to be shown. So, yeah, rook h7, rook sack, rook check, and then, of course, queen sack. And again, by the way, as much as I acknowledge the fact that this is going to be made, once again, speaking of rewiring your chess, if you don't look at queen g6 first, something is wrong with how we look at chess, because not only is it the most forcing and the best move, but this is the one that fills you with excitement. You can't wait to deliver a checkmate after sacking a rook and queen. You absolutely have to love that concept and go for it. So that's gonna be it, folks. That was another glorious W for us in the Bishop C4 Sicilians. I hope you liked it. I will be back with more soon. Please don't forget to sub, to like, to comment, to super thank me if you can. And I will see you in the next one very soon. Thank you. Bye.